Joe, here we are again talking about the Panthers and the Seahawks. We did it in Week 8. We're doing it now. The Panthers 0-3 against Seattle in the past 3 years, but they've all been in Charlotte. Now it's in Seattle. Now it's in the playoffs. What do the Panthers have to do to get the win?
It's real simple. Cam Newton's got to play better. I mean, I think the defense will show up, but offensively, we've seen him have some of his worst games of his career against the Legion of Boom. They've made a lot of opposing quarterbacks look bad, and no different with Cam. It was interesting today for me to hear Rivera talk about how Cam was pressing in that first game. And if you'll remember, I don't fault him as much for that first half turnover, the fumble.
Right.
But boy, when he tried to backhand that ball to Greg Olsen in the second half, all momentum that they had just went out. They were on the Seattle side of the field, and he can't do that. They've got to find their spots, but he's got to play a smarter game and a more complete game.
There weren't a lot of big plays. Cam and the Panthers have not been able to get a lot of big plays against the Seattle defense. A lot of teams haven't. On the other side, though, Seattle, each game, they've had that one big play that's kind of busted open. Seattle leads the league in explosive plays this year, but they're near the bottom in total offense. So what's that tell you? They kind of lull you to sleep. Russell Wilson, he finds his spots, and when he picks them, he usually hits them. The Panthers have to guard against that. Josh Norman has to do well. Trey Boston has to make up for his Week 8 game-winning touchdown that he gave up against Luke Wilson, make amends for that. And also, Marshawn Lynch. You cannot let him get a big run up there in Seattle. He's done it before, and he's done it before in the playoffs, and he's set off an earthquake in Seattle.
And the Panthers defense, unfortunately for them, going to be without Star Lotulelei.
Yeah.
That's a big loss. No disrespect to Star. It's not like losing Luke Kuechly.
Right.
I mean, Star is a guy who, by his own admission, struggled for big portions of this season. Still, you want to go up there with all your weapons, and they will not have Star in that game. Colin Cole gets the start against his old Seattle team. Ultimately, JJ, though, you mentioned the crowd. You know it's going to be crazy. What do the Panthers do to at least try to take the crowd out of it somewhat?
Well, they got to score early, and it can't just be go down there. We've seen it before. 10, 11 play drive, 7 minutes off the clock, but then they settle for a field goal. They stall out inside the 5. It cannot be a Graham Gano 3-0 game, get the ball back to Seattle. No, they have to score a touchdown on their first drive. They need to get a field goal on their next drive. They need to go up 10-0. They need to 10-3, get that lead, try to take the crowd out of it early, and that's how you can win this game.
And maybe the only other thing that would silence a crowd, some kind of big defensive play, a turnover and even a pick six. We saw that in Atlanta. Ultimately, I've seen the 11-point spread. I don't think it's that kind of game. I think it's, even in Seattle, I think it's going to be a pretty taut, defensive-dominated game. Ultimately, I think Seattle probably gets it done by maybe 3 or 4 points.
I think it's going to be another tight game, but I got to agree with you, Joe. In Seattle, where they're 24-2 the past 3 years, including the playoffs, I think the Seahawks go to 25-2, win a close game against the Panthers.